Hey, what's going on, crew? Welcome to another edition of the Clinic Grow Secrets Show. This is your host, Jeff VK, and I'm actually in the studio today with a very special guest. And as you know, if you're listening today, this is the show where we teach you how to get more new patients, make more profit per patient, and keep them as long as humanly possible. And if you're an avid listener, you know that we do have a fee for the show, and the fee is very simple. We don't ask for any sort of monetary donations. All we ask is that if you get some value from the show today, share it with a colleague, a friend, a loved one who would also get some similar value. We grow only on value exchange and word of mouth on this podcast. We don't run ads for the show. We don't run ads on the show. So we grow by word of mouth. And so, again, if you get some value, hit that share button and share it with somebody that you like. And so today is actually a guest on the show that I've been looking forward to interviewing for the last couple of weeks. We got connected real quick over Facebook, and this gentleman has an insane track record in the chiropractic industry. And so I'm with today Dr. Jason Helfrich. And so what an honor it is to have you, sir. And really, if you guys don't know this gentleman, you're going to get to know him today. Dr. Jason and his wife have a very deep track record inside of chiropractic. In fact, they have opened up over 119 locations around the country, and he's going to share his experience and expertise with us today. Dr. Jason, pleasure to have you here today, sir.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here and looking forward to the opportunity and the conversation.
100%. And you know, like when somebody hears that intro, they're like, man, this guy and his team have 119 locations, right? That's been quite the journey. But like anything, the story doesn't begin. You didn't wake up with that, you know? So where did this all start? I know you started back in 2004, first location out of Colorado Springs, if I remember right. And it kind of just expanded from there. So what does a story look like, man?
Yeah, that's exactly right. 2004, my wife Vanessa and I opened number one. And, we had a little more business experience than probably most people that come out of school. We had extensive restaurant experience, and I had run a franchise or worked in a franchise in the restaurant world. And chiropractic was kind of a second career for us. And so while that's a little bit of a different story, fast forward, when we opened up, we knew how to run a business. And we had run a business for companies that had a proven track record and had seen what that looks like to replicate a model, develop the systems, share those systems, and train and all that. So while we had no idea that we'd be where we are now, back in 2004, we did know we wanted to do more than just open a single unit practice, right? So we didn't want to call it Helfrich Chiropractic or something along that lines. We wanted to build a successful practice. We wanted to replicate that. Didn't know what that meant. Open 2, open 3, open 5. I would have never guessed 119 and growing rapidly. And so, I think that when Vanessa and I opened it, Vanessa and I had long thought bringing business principles to this profession that we love so much. And we love the philosophy of chiropractic. And we're subluxation-based chiropractors at our core. And educating and inspiring patients, but we were really let down by the lack of success that a lot of chiropractors experienced. That is, 50, 60% seem to either not make it or just meander at this level of paying bills. And, when asked if they would do it all over again, many say, no, I wish I didn't, because I'm having a hard time surviving financially. So we wanted to show the profession what can be done. The top 10% had always made 90% of the money, which isn't a lot different than a lot of professions, but we knew for this company to take its rightful place in healthcare and to make an impact and move forward this vision of above, down, inside out healing and a philosophy of chiropractic, we had to have more than 10% of our chiropractors making it at a high level. And so our question was then, how do we have chiropractors able to practice with a subluxation-based philosophy and to welcome and be okay with a high income for doing so? And so that was our mission we set out to do. We achieved that fairly rapidly ourselves. I mean, everything we talk about today is going to be Cliff Note version. So there's a lot of highs and lows and dips and peaks and valleys and everything along the way. But we were able to have some level of success fairly rapidly. We built our practice up very quick, and we're driving fun cars and building our dream home and raising our 3 young boys. And then we're able to do it again, with our second location. And then it's just a matter of really creating the systems, dialing them in, and making sure you have the right people and helping you build this vision. So that's kind of a Cliff Note version of what we started out to do in 2004 and where we are today.
Amazing. And one of the things too within that story that I think was very pivotal, and I think you realized it even at the time, is that you didn't name it based on like yourself, the Helfrich chiropractic, right? You knew that the vision was bigger than yourself. I think a lot of people find themselves kind of trapped in that personality driven practice, but you were able to kind of just, engineer it in a way that you weren't stuck into that, right?
Yeah, and I think that yes, and because we knew we had to replicate, and other people aren't going to want to use our name, right? So that was a no-brainer. With this profession that based upon the study you read has access and treats 12 to 14% of the population. We knew that to reach the masses, to reach the people that aren't in your office, to educate the people that aren't in your office, you have to have a marketable name. You have to have the ability to get that word out. And that comes down to, there's so many pieces, but it's logo. It's your ability to show people what you represent, who you are, what chiropractic is. So they start to think immediately when there's something wrong with, let's say, an ear infection with their son or daughter, they don't immediately think antibiotics. We want them immediately thinking, you know what, I need to get adjusted. And we have a long way to go still, but we're making progress. And we see more and more people understanding what health is all about. We have more people questioning the medical establishment, especially going through COVID and things like that. They start to ask the right questions, which is why? Why do you want me to do that? Why do you want me to take that? Why is that not working? And that's great. That's where we want people, is thinking for themselves, asking questions. And so our name, our logo, our marketability allowed us to go out and really start to introduce ourselves to the masses.
Absolutely. Well said. The brand kind of takes over, that brand promise ultimately, throughout the marketplace. That's excellent there. So, a lot of the listeners, right? They like, hey, I got a location. Some of the listeners two, some of the listeners four, maybe even 10, right? You're sitting at, now 119 offices with the projection of ultimately getting, I think you said like close to another like 50 in the next calendar year opened, correct there?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So what does it take to replicate, right? So like I got a great, someone listen, they got a great business, they're stable, they got a great crew. How can they replicate that? Whether they want to get to 120 locations or not, how do they replicate themselves to be able to expand the mission?
Yeah, I mean, I think people run the systems run the business. And so every great business that's out there has systems that you don't have to handle, because in business, challenges are going to come your way every day. And you need to have a proven way to handle those so you can focus on what's important. So when people go to their office and they're just a victim of what happens that day or what comes their way, they can't focus on the bigger picture because they're so busy in the practice solving challenges and trying to survive, right? It's the E-Myth philosophy that you can't constantly work in your business. You got to work on your business. And so I think the most important thing to replicate your business is to have those systems that answer the question that people are going to have. Now, then a very important aspect is then getting the right people to come in and run those systems. And so, that's a whole different conversation of how do I attract that talent? How do I hire that talent? How do I train that talent? And how do I keep that talent? And that's never been tougher. Right now, we see a time where it's very, very tough to go out there and find these tremendous people that you're proud to have them represent your brand, your baby, your reputation. And so, that's another tough thing, but none of that's going to happen until you have those systems. And so it starts with writing them down. It starts with developing what are my systems, what's working, what's making me successful, me and my team successful. And then you want to go out and not immediately say, hey, let's grow like crazy. We have systems. Let's test those out. Let's replicate. Let's open another practice. Let's let another group of people implement our systems in a different environment, and let's see how that goes. And if they then can, yes, indeed have success, and your systems are working for completely different people in a completely different town, you're on to something, right? But chances are you'll figure out, you know what, there's things I need to tweak and tune, and ooh, I didn't see this coming, and I never thought of that. And so as you go from 1 to 2, you'll come to that. And then 2 to 3, you'll come to that. One's across town, that's a little easier than maybe a town that's 60 miles away, right? For us, that was Colorado Springs to Denver. That was all of a sudden a little tougher because we couldn't just pop over real fast. Then we opened Atlanta. Well, that's much tougher because I certainly can't jump over to the Atlanta office. And so then you have to be able to, how do you train? How do you monitor? all of these things. So, I think once you develop those systems, you test those out and you grow the right way, then you start to see how proven your system is. And, the numbers will speak for themselves. Numbers don't lie, and numbers will tell you exactly how you're doing on that journey.
Very well said. And I think one key point there is that every market is going to operate a little bit different in terms of culture internally, marketing, acquisition of new ones, leadership, that kind of stuff. So it sounded like the journey was get one, open two, open three, open four, but then like once those three or four were proven, you could really start to rapidly scale it.
Yep. Yes, you can. But people are also going to have interest at that point. So that's when people start, the people that are open and kicking butt are also referring people in. And it's going to start organically happening, whether you want it to or not. And that was kind of what Vanessa and I found was, we found the first people that had to take a chance on us, right? When we had this big vision of, hey, we're going to have 100 offices across the country and we're going to change healthcare. And it sounds poetic and beautiful. But when you have one practice, that first person that comes in and buys that dream, that vision, has really got to trust it. And then you've really got to prove everything that you're saying. So for us, that was a doctor and his wife that are still with the company now. They're very high up in our our group and our core group that's helping us on this journey. But they took a chance on us early. They had success. That helped. Then the next people came in, not quite as big of a risk because they've seen it done twice now, but they still had to take a risk. Now, when people come in, they can say, okay, great, there's 100+ people doing this, not as much of a risk, right? And that allows you to have a little more, you can charge more for what you do. You can focus on massive growth as opposed to replicating one at a time. But, originally, you got to get those people that really trust your vision, and you got to be able to clearly articulate that vision so people understand what they're getting into.
Well said. Well said. Now, within running these organizations, you mentioned, you've got about, north of 1,300 employees now, right? That's quite the operation. So you have leadership within clinics, and you have also leadership within like your core team that helps you, scale the business, acquire new people, get in more franchises, that kind of stuff. What does the leadership look like within the clinics? How are you keeping everybody on the same page? Are you doing weekly mastermind, weekly training? Like, how are we keeping cohesiveness at this scale?
Yeah, good question. We train relentlessly. We communicate on a high level through a variety of different channels, right? So, I mean, there's group pages and mastermind pages and different things like that people can discuss challenges or share victories or miracle stories or, hey, I need help with this patient. Has anyone else seen anything like this? And so you have this community that builds up. That's incredible. And in chiropractic, we swim upstream. We're out in a community where sometimes we're bucking the trend in healthcare. And so it's really nice to plug into like-minded individuals on a regular basis and ask for that help. Our training, we shut down every Tuesday morning. We always have since the first day we opened number one. And we dedicate those 3, 4, 5 hours to training, whether it's role playing with our team, whether it's talking about large concepts, whether it's talking about marketing. We develop, that morning is based on training. And so that's important to always connect at that level. We have a team that does nothing but have phone calls, individual and group, every single day throughout the week to doctors that need help with certain things. So it may be lead generation. It may be your conversion of a new patient. It may be a technique question that people need help on. So we want to provide this massive schedule and massive calendar of events that people can say, yes, I need that. And then one thing that's really unique to us is our quarterly tribe. We come together every single quarter as a company, and we get together, we share, our numbers. We present our numbers to our peers. We're held accountable for our numbers. That way people can build you up. They can tap into what you're doing, or they can hold you accountable for things you're not doing. And so when people come into this environment where you're on stage with your P&L behind you, we want to teach business owners to know their numbers. And so many chiropractors, from people I went to school with or other people that just get a hold of me, say, hey, can I ask you a couple questions? And of course, I want to help them, but they don't even know their numbers. They don't know the first thing about where they're at. They just know that their bank account is empty at the end of the day. And that's not leadership of your practice. That's not knowing your numbers. And if you don't know your numbers, you're not going to be able to solve the challenges that come along with those. So, our tribe is filled with training and camaraderie and partying and all the fun stuff. But it boils down to like accountability and knowing your numbers. And that changes the way people go into their day-to-day activity, because they know every number tells a story. And we need to understand what this number means. This number may tell me that my CA is not doing her job. This number may tell me that my clinic director is not any good. This one may tell me that my lead gen company is not very good. They all tell a story. So when we analyze those, we can go to work to fix issues, not just say, okay, what do we need to do here to make you more money? That's a very hard question. And you're not going to get an answer when you ask a broad question like that.
Sure. Yeah. The money is kind of like the outcome or not outcome of basically all the inputs that lead up to it,
Icing on the cake. You do the right things, you help people, you get people well, you educate people. The money certainly will come from doing that. But if you chase the dollars, especially in this profession, then you're going to be chasing dollars for a long time. You're in it for the wrong reason. We're here to help people and change healthcare, and you can make an extraordinary living doing that. But if you come in to make an extraordinary living and not really buy into the philosophy of chiropractic, you're going to have a rough run.
Yeah, I find that people that follow that second journey too, the retention is usually not there either, because they're not creating the lifestyle that they really need for themselves or the patient change. If they're just short-term dollars, they're like in and out, no retention, PVA is 3.5, not good. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Well said.
They don't know their retention because they don't measure it, right? So
no idea.
And they just blame the profession. They blame their school. The school never taught me this, or the profession is no good, or insurance companies don't support chiropractic. So it's
the patients just don't get it. They just don't understand how it works. You know what I mean?
Of course they don't, because you didn't tell them what it was. You didn't spend the time to sit down with them and educate them.
Isn't that the truth? In the modern healthcare society, is just it's so broken in terms of sick care, in terms of what health really is. It's like people need that education. So unless you step up as a leader to provide that, you're going to be swimming upstream.
Well, and our core to ours is that we call it the empowerment session, right? But it's also education, and it's sitting down with that patient and making sure they understand, so they can make the best decision of what their goal is. So we don't want to dictate, here's what we want everyone to do. We want to let people understand why they would want to go into, for us, a corrective care model of care. Right. And so, but of course, no one wants that. No one comes in thinking like, yeah, I want to come 72 visits, right? That'd be my ideal. They want to come in and get one visit and get better. But when you show them and they understand, oh shit, I didn't know that tied into this. And now I see the bigger picture of the why of what's going on. Then we ask that patient, what do you want to accomplish in this practice, after we've educated them and empowered them to understand it? Now, many of them then say, hey, I want to correct it. Let's go long term. Let's make sure we get to the core. Some don't. Some are, hey, I'm pregnant, I just want to get through my pregnancy, or hey, I just want to use my insurance, or and just because people don't change their entire paradigm on health within the first 2 days, we don't write them off. We want to dive in and be like, great, let's adhere to your goals, but along that time, we're going to make sure we continue to educate you, show you what chiropractic can do for yourself and your family, change your life, change your viewpoint on some things. And we know those people then come into your practice as long-term assets. And, and we love to see their lives changed as well, whether they choose corrective care or pain-based care.
I love that. So not writing off people just because of their current paradigm, knowing that if we plant the correct seeds, we can eventually harvest a new paradigm and ultimately earn the trust in business long-term.
And a lot of people need that trust. A lot of people, probably including myself, to be honest, like I'm very careful of what I trust up front. So when someone tells me something, I may not change everything day one, but it plants a seed. Day two, I want to see, are they backing up what they said? Day 10, are they still everything that they said they would be? Now we have a relationship. Now I've built credibility. Now I may make that decision to come in long-term with myself and my family. And we see that all the time when people, do it the right way.
I love that. And I think so many people are so just writing off, it's like, hey, if you don't understand it in the first 4 seconds, then you're just not a fit for this office. But really, you're going up against years of just belief system that is really not necessarily wrong. It's just a way of viewing the world that needs to be reshifted,
Well, and chiropractors have so much to say because there's so much going wrong right now with healthcare. And so we have to be careful that when people come in for day one, and for them, their low back may hurt, right? That may be what brought them in. Well, 10 minutes later, we're talking about vaccines and the Wilkes case and all kinds of things like that. And I did it. I know this because I did it. because I had so much passion for this profession. I wanted to share everything. I wanted to make them a chiropractor,
Mm-hmm.
basically, that first day. And then I started to learn we need to take baby steps. I need to earn their trust. I need to show them how I can help them. I need to answer their questions, solve their problems. When I do that and build that trust, then I can implement, like, hey, instead of you maybe taking a Tylenol for your son or daughter, have you considered this? Right. And then you slowly start to show them how they modify their viewpoint on healthcare, and in the process change their life in doing so.
I love that. I love that. I think that's a golden nugget right there for the listeners. There is sometimes patience and planting seeds will reap the long-term rewards, you know. That's
For sure.
excellent there. One thing I wanted to just, I think people are going to have a question on, as I did when you were talking about kind of the leadership you're doing amongst the, the franchise locations and the docs. You had mentioned, hey, we shut down every Tuesday morning. We get together for 3 to 4 hours to do training. Is that everyone in your world? All 119 locations come together, or how is that structured?
Yep, it's everybody. It's there's different calls and things that different people may get on. So that is, the clinic directors may be on a different call than the stretch therapist, and the
Sure.
stretch therapists are on a different call than the head CA. So where the head CA may be covering the financials and changes in the care credit model, right? The clinic directors may be doing a philosophy talk, where stretch therapists are working on a golf stretch, right? So I mean, they're different. Now, there is one time throughout the month, every month, that I lead a call that's everybody. And so that would be more on the philosophy of what we do, whether it's business strategy, chiropractic philosophy, healthcare strategy, whatever that, may be that makes sense that day. So there's a lot of different avenues, but yeah, we get together every single Tuesday with the entire group. And then we encourage the offices to follow up after those calls that we do on a national level, individual, right? There's nothing that can replace how important it is to role play and work with your team, and to really do that. And that's what this used to be on Tuesday mornings, was myself and my team. Then it was myself and the team for the new office we opened. Then it became, like I said, tougher when there's Denver and Atlanta, they can't come in. So then we're like, hey, how do we get them in on computer or telephone back in the day? And so now that's very doable with Zoom, and it's changed the world, but nothing replaces that face-to-face interaction with your team. And a lot of times people don't do that. It's one big challenge. Doctors hire somebody, give them some manual that's a training manual that they bought or something at a seminar. And then 3 days later, they're pissed at their CA because they're not answering questions the right way, or not converting people to care long term, when they never had a chance. They never were trained. They don't even understand what they're selling at that point.
Right.
And so people need to invest in their team. They're certainly an asset. They're not a liability. And many business owners see their staff as the wrong thing, as opposed to a team member that they can work with and together to partner and change their life and their patient's life. They more see them as a payroll, and that's the
Mhm.
wrong way to see your team.
That's beautiful. I love that. And you
Mhm.
got, for the listeners, again, you're listening to a gentleman who has, 100 119 locations, 1,300 employees, making, 3 to 5 hours a week for training. So I think a lot of people, when they're, you might have a team and you're like, oh, like that role playing, that daily huddle, that hour here, hour there, that's just a waste of time. We could be doing this. I'm not paying them to huddle, you know what I mean? But like, by doing that, you get so much more output in chemistry that the work goes so much further. You know what I mean? So there's always time.
Certainly, you can imagine the income that's lost on closing every single Tuesday when you're talking about 120 offices. But then you can also imagine the income that's lost closing a Thursday and a Friday, half Wednesday, one time every quarter for 120 offices. But it's that important to us, and it's that important to our culture, that we have that time to connect, plug into each other, train, brainstorm, and really tap into each other's knowledge. So I think it's something that everyone needs to look into for sure. And it may be a different day for you, or maybe a different way, or a different shorter or longer time, but everyone needs to have that time. They invest in their team, and then their team will in return provide knowledge, and that's going to change your business.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. So we talked a little bit about leadership, how you're managing these, the locations, the team members within, the different calls, that kind of stuff. What is your immediate? I would make the assumption you probably haven't shook hands with all 1,300 people, right? So what does your leadership team look like? That core team of yours, what does that look like?
Well, we kind of break it into divisions now at this size a little bit, because it used to be everyone just wore a bunch of hats. And so some days we would talk about marketing, and other days we'd talk about training, and other days we'd talk about challenges. There's too much going on now to do that. So
Sure.
every single day there's going to be, some of all of that. And so, we have a chief marketing officer, and he has his team of graphic designers and social media specialists and publicists and all kinds of stuff, proofreaders underneath him, a videographer on staff. We then have our training team, which is essential, which is our chief operation officer, Dr. Hannah. And then she, of course, has our doctor training team and our CA training team and our therapist training team underneath her. We have our chief development officer that's more handling sales of franchises and the build out process and getting people open. We have an entire onboarding team that has to get people, there's hundreds and hundreds of checks that need to happen to start from signing a franchise agreement to opening your doors. And so we want to lead people through that process to make that as easy as possible. So at the end of the day, running a business is tough, right? It's one of the hardest things you'll ever do. It's also one of the most rewarding things that you'll do. And so we want to take as much off our owners, our franchisees' plates, our doctors' plates, and show them that they can focus on creating a culture within their own office, to inspiring their patients, inspiring their staff, and really building this amazing environment. We don't want them worrying about, is this paperwork legal? Or how do I generate more leads? Or what's a promo I can do for the month of October? We're working on that way ahead of the game. So we have, aces in their places, we say. We have people that are leading different departments, so we can then best lead our franchisees and our doctors and our clinics to have success.
Makes a lot of sense. And especially as you get to that scale, you just got to have, like you said, like almost divisions of humans responsible for certain things, whether it's onboarding, training, social media, that kind of stuff. So that's excellent there. What is someone listening? They're like, man, Dr. Jason, what does a day in the life look like for you nowadays?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I work now more than I ever have by choice. I absolutely love it. I can work from wherever I want. So that's something I wanted to create in my life. So we have homes, various locations that we'll do our work from. We love Telluride, and we're currently in Scottsdale, and we love Napa, and we love Cabo, and all kinds of different stuff. But I'm really tied in with my company. I work every day speaking to my team for sure, so they can then carry that message out to everybody else. I congratulate some of our top practices on a daily basis just for records that they're having or great days. I'm on the phone handling challenges with some people of different things. So I'm more involved than most people think because I want to be. And I think that's what made us successful in the first place. I'm unable, and my wife, Vanessa, who's 50% of this whole thing, I haven't mentioned her enough on this podcast, but we're not able to speak to everybody like we used to every second of the day. But what we can do is speak to people that then speak to people every single day. And so, we're involved at a pretty high level. And I don't see that changing for some time. I love everything I do. I love the tribes a tremendous amount. Vanessa and I still lead the table day one with our top practices that present that day. And we're still the ones that are holding them accountable and challenging them. And now that we have to break out into 8 different rooms on Friday, it used to be 1 room, but now there's 8 rooms going on at the same time. We, of course, have to channel some of our top offices to lead those rooms. And then we just kind of make our rounds and give feedback and questions and things like that as we're able to do so.
I love that. I love it. It just shows the character of yourself and your wife too, for just being like massively involved. When I asked that question too, I knew the answer was going to be like massive involvement still, because at the end of the day, like that's the vision, that's the leadership. If they see you out, doing whatever, smoking cigars, not giving a shit, they're going to be like, well, dude, like what's the mission here? You know what I mean?
Right,
So you got
right.
to lead from the central, like Vince Lombardi said it best, So that's
Well,
excellent.
and our work's undone, right? So I mean, we've had some great success. By no means have we reached our vision of changing the public's view of chiropractic. I think we're making progress. I think we take pride, and because we don't get to have our hands on patients anymore like we used to, and I miss that. I miss those patients saying, "Thank you so much. You taught me this. You did this for my family." But we get to see that, one, with all of our doctors sharing their miracles, and two, looking at our numbers. Right. And so, when we're looking at numbers and we're doing thousands of new patients and millions of adjustments per year. That then shows us the impact that we're starting to make on this profession and people understanding what we do. I want people to understand what chiropractic is because it's delivered in such a way that we're really proud of. And we feel very good about furthering the profession. We feel very good about our impact that we've made in this profession. We also give back quite a bit, so we just set up the largest scholarship fund at Life University in the history of the college, right? And so we want to make sure we're giving back. We have scholarship funds at multiple colleges that we do. We donate to all kinds of causes that are out there fighting for our profession on a daily basis. So, we want to make an impact in this profession for a variety of different reasons. We're not here just to make a buck. We're here to move the profession forward. Now, by doing that, we do extremely well financially, and we're very blessed for that. But we do well financially because we do it for the right reason, and we bust our ass every day to make sure that we're growing for the right reason and making an impact.
I love that. And that leads kind of, and I know I want to be respectful of your time too. We'll keep it for about another 5 minutes or so, maybe 7. What's the current vision? You'd mentioned it earlier in the show. Hey, the vision was to get to, when you were selling those first couple people on this big vision where second location, third location, hey, we're going to get to 100. That was the big vision. What is the current big vision, that big audacious goal that you have for 100%?
I'm starting to see more and more how possible it is. I think there can be 2,000 locations probably in the United States as of right now. So, our next goal is to be number one in the profession, which we're not. We're growing rapidly, but we're not number one. I would like to, you take it in chunks, just like you do patient volume or goals that you have in life for yourself and your family. So, obviously after 100, it's 200, then it's 500. But those are just numbers, right? So, I really want to see the longer term picture of how this looks. And, we learn a little bit every day. You play at a higher level. There's just more zeros after every decision that you're doing.
Sure.
Whether someday this company ends up going public or what happens, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I know that I want to have a significant involvement in whatever happens as long as I'm able to do so. I have 3 boys. One that's currently halfway done with chiropractic school that can't wait to join the company. The other 2 in undergrad right now that want to be part of the company. So, it's a legacy. It's a lineage. I want to provide for my family. At the same time, I want to make sure that we're providing for this profession. And so it's fun to see that moving in the direction and all the hard work paying off.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And so we'll wrap up with 2 things here. One is, someone listening, they're like, hey man, like I'd be interested in like maybe being a part of this, right? What does that look like? Someone wants to be a part of 100%.
There's a lot of different ways to do that. We have opportunities for people to come in at all different levels: clinic directors, associate doctors, staff members, office managers. We of course have owners that are both doctors and owners that are non-doctors. And so it provides a massive amount of opportunity to provide either employment positions for some of the docs and come in and join our company where we can provide them a tremendous pay, right? And that's going to allow them to build their life. And then with the possibility of owning that practice someday, not just working for somebody else forever. And how do we finance that for them? And how do we carry them on that note? How do we make that as doable as possible where they can start to reap the benefits of something they built? So that's very possible. Some people, 10% of the profession says, no, I want to do it myself day one. I want to come in. I want to sign a franchise agreement. Let me build it. That's an option as well. And we see people that are just doing extraordinary things. We just setting records and $1 million practices so fast now. The way people are doing this, it's just incredible to watch. So, we dial in the systems a little more with every location that opens. And I learn a little bit from every doctor that comes in, and every single time we tweak, much like the human body, you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to modify. And so in business, that's crucial to survival. And, we don't think like, hey, we got here, we have it figured out. We know that every single day we have to tweak and tune to make sure we're on the cutting edge of healthcare, cutting edge of business, cutting edge of chiropractic, so we can go out and build the best practices. So we continue to work on that.
Amazing. It's amazing. I have one last question for you. A question I ask everybody who gets to be on the journey with me on this show. So the question is, tomorrow morning, you wake up and you've lost everything. You have no money, you have no team, you have no resources, you have no locations, but you do have your knowledge that you have today. What are you going to spend the next 30 days doing? to build back what you have now as much as possible in the next 30 days?
Well, I hope I still have my family, because that's my core, right? And so that's everything to me. And I've always thought that no matter what, if I have my 3 boys and my wife, then I have everything that's really important to me. And so that's essential. I think like most successful people, I feel very confident I could recreate it. And so I don't look at massive challenges as something that shuts me down. It's just something I learned from. And so in your scenario, what would I do? I would get to work in opening my first location. I think I could build that in a matter of days. And so after that first one, I would probably then get to work on number 2 and probably 3 through 10 while I'm building my location, because I know how that's going to look and I see how fast it happens now. We've developed a software company in the midst of all this. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that are built around this software company, marketing company, billing company, all so we can do this perfectly. I would also start on those other things that are going to support my vision and get this going. At the end of the day, though, I'm a chiropractor with 2 hands that can adjust and change lives. And so if that ended up just being me with my patients and my family, I'm happy to do that. But I think with my entrepreneurial spirit, I think I would have to recreate. So I would go to work and I know I could replicate it again if I needed to.
Love that. Love that. Dr. Jason, someone's listening. They're like, man, this guy's really interesting. He's a wealth of knowledge. Where can people find you? Where's the best way for someone to get in touch if they're listening to the show?
Probably the webpage, 100percentchiropractic.com is a great spot to do so. That's going to give you access to anyone you would want to get in touch with as far as questions and such. There's a link up top that's going to take you to 100percentfranchise.com, which is more the business side, and it's going to allow you to ask questions and things like that. So I think that's the best way to get in touch, and I'm happy to speak with anybody about the opportunity or anybody in my team to talk about an opportunity within our company. We have a lot of them, and we'll put you off to the right person. We have a director of doctor recruitment and a director of CA recruitment, and there's the nutritional company and then the software company. So whatever makes sense for you, we're happy to get you in touch with the right people to see if this is something that's a fit for you, or there's some way we can help you to achieve your vision and your goals.
Love that. Guys, listen, and I'll make sure to put the link to 100% Chiropractic in the website, and also the franchise opportunity as well, just to learn a little bit more about that. That'll be linked out into the show notes for everybody. A very warm welcome, and a very appreciative, rather, of you being on the show today, sir. Lots of wealth of knowledge. Very much appreciated our time together. And guys, if you got any sort of value, which I know you guys did from Dr. Jason, feel free to hit that share button and share it with somebody like-minded. It may just change the world a little bit quicker, right? So, Dr. Jason, I appreciate you being with us here today, my man. It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah, I'm really honored to be invited, and thank you so much for the opportunity.
You're very welcome, and I hope we can chat again. Everyone,
Anytime.
you guys take care now. Cheers.
Thank you.